The voice from the center of the earth. Human design's revelation and the 4 genetic types of humanity. Prologue. An encounter in Ibiza. On January 3, 1987, on the Mediterranean island of Ibiza, Spain, a man named Robert Alan Krakauer experienced something that would change not only his life, but potentially the trajectory of human consciousness itself. For 8 days and nights he received a transmission, not from meditation, not from mystical practice, not from years of spiritual seeking, but from what he could only describe as the voice. This was not a gentle whisper of inspiration. This was precise, mechanical, unrelenting. The information downloaded into his consciousness was vast, complex, and utterly unlike anything in the existing body of human knowledge. It synthesized the I Ching, the Kabbalah, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, Western astrology, and quantum physics into a unified mechanical system for understanding human consciousness. By the time the transmission ended on January 11th, Robert Alan Krakauer no longer existed. In his place stood Ra Uru Hu, the messenger of human design, a system he neither asked for nor initially wanted, but could not deny. He had Gate 51, the Gate of Shock, defined in his chart. He was literally shocked into receiving this knowledge. Shock is the energy of initiation, and Ra's entire life became an initiation into a new way of understanding what it means to be human. But here's where the story becomes truly intriguing, where we must ask questions that most human design practitioners carefully avoid. Where did the voice come from? What was its source? And perhaps most importantly, why now? The well at the center. Source of the transmission. Ra Uru Hu was living in a ruin on Ibiza, not just any ruin, but one with a well. This detail is crucial and rarely discussed. Wells are ancient symbols of access to the depths, to the underworld, to the source waters beneath the earth. In mystical traditions across cultures, wells represent portals, thresholds between the surface world and what lies beneath. The voice, Ra reported, came from the center of the planet, not from the cosmos, not from distant stars or angelic realms, from within the earth itself. Let that settle for a moment. The most sophisticated system for understanding human consciousness, a system that reveals the mechanical nature of how awareness operates in form, comes from the planetary core. What does that suggest? In Gnostic cosmology, the archons, those forces that maintain the material prison of consciousness, are intimately connected with the material plane itself. The demiurge, the false god who creates and controls the physical realm, is often associated with planetary consciousness, with the forces that keep souls bound to matter. Could it be that the source of human design is the intelligence of the planet itself? Not necessarily malevolent, but not purely benevolent either. Rather mechanical, serving a purpose that transcends human notions of good and evil. The program's endgame. Why release the knowledge now? Here's the conspiracy that we must seriously consider. What if human design was released precisely because the program, the vast control mechanism that governs human consciousness, is approaching a critical transition point? The mechanics themselves tell us something profound. The program doesn't need humanity to wake up. It's its interest. Humanity is dying. It's dying. The seven-centered being, what we might call true humanity or Homo sapiens in its original form, is over, finished. The nine-centered being that emerged around 1781 represents a new species, a different kind of consciousness altogether. But here's the paradox. If the program wants to keep humanity unconscious, why would it release a system that reveals the exact mechanics of how consciousness operates? Why give humans the tools to understand their conditioning, to operate correctly, to potentially escape the homogenization? 3 possible answers. Theory 1. The harvest. Perhaps the program needs a certain percentage of humans to awaken, not everyone, just enough. Those who can operate correctly according to their design become something else, something useful to the next phase of planetary evolution. The rest remain unconscious, perfect energy sources for the continuation of the Maya. Human design becomes a sorting mechanism, those who get it and those who don't. Theory 2. The final integration. As we approach 2027 and the transition to solar plexus awareness, perhaps the program recognizes that the old control mechanisms won't work on the emerging consciousness. Human design, then, is a gift, but also a last chance instruction manual. Learn to operate correctly in the transition or be swept away by it. The information is released because the stakes have become existential for the species itself. Theory 3. The Archonic Bargain. What if the forces that maintain the Maya, call them archons, call them planetary intelligence, call them the program, made a decision, release the knowledge to those ready to receive it, knowing that the vast majority will ignore it, misuse it, or turn it into another spiritual commodity. But for the few who truly live it, they become something the program needs. Conscious agents operating correctly within the construct, maintaining the viability of the Maya through their very awakening. Each theory has merit. Each suggests that human design isn't a simple gift of liberation, but something far more complex, a tool that serves purposes beyond individual awakening. The 4 genetic types, not 5. Let's be precise about something that's often confused in modern human design presentations. There are only 4 genetic types, not 5. Generator and manifesting generator are the same genetic type. They share the same fundamental characteristic, a defined sacral center, the motor of life force energy. The distinction between pure generator and manifesting generator is mechanical configuration, not genetic difference. Both are sacral beings designed to respond. The manifesting generator simply has a motor connected to the throat, giving them additional manifestation capacity, but this doesn't make them a separate genetic type. This is crucial for understanding the deeper pattern. 4 types. 4 fundamental ways consciousness operates in form. 4 primary strategies for navigating the material plane. In ancient systems, the number 4 represents completion, the material realm, the 4 elements, the 4 directions, the foundation of manifested reality. That humanity expresses through exactly 4 genetic configurations is not accident, it's cosmic architecture. Interestingly, this maps precisely to the 4 blood types O, A, B, AB. Though modern human design rarely makes this connection explicit, each blood type carries specific characteristics, susceptibilities, and optimal conditions. Could it be that blood type and human design type are different aspects of the same fundamental genetic truth? Let's examine each type not just mechanically, but in terms of their evolutionary purpose, their mission in the context of consciousness evolution on this planet. The 4 types: missions, strategies, and evolution. Type 1, Manifestor. 9% of population. Blood type correlation. Strategy. Inform before acting. Signature. Peace not self. Theme. Anger. The Manifestors mission. Manifestors are the initiators of the human experiment. They are the ones designed to start things, to set events in motion, to break stagnation. Without manifestors, nothing new begins. In the context of planetary consciousness, manifestors are chaos agents. They disrupt existing patterns, create volatility, force adaptation. This is not destructive, it's evolutionary. Stagnant systems die. Manifestors ensure that doesn't happen. Their anger, when they can't manifest freely, isn't a bug. It's a feature. That anger is designed to break through resistance, both in themselves and in the systems around them. How manifestors evolve. The manifestor's evolution comes through learning that informing is not asking permission, it's claiming power responsibly. A manifestor operating correctly becomes a force of nature that others can work with rather than resist. In the larger program, manifestors serve as ignition points. They spark new cycles, new possibilities, new directions. The program needs them to prevent calcification, but it also needs them controlled. Hence the childhood conditioning that teaches manifestors they're too much, that they need to ask first, that their natural impulse to act is dangerous. A manifestor who learns to inform reclaims their power while reducing resistance. This is mastery, initiating change that serves both individual and collective without creating destructive chaos. Conspiracy connection. Notice how modern society systematically crushes manifestor energy in children. Schools punish initiative. Corporate structures demand permission for everything. Social systems require constant consultation before action. This isn't accident. It's systematic suppression of the one type that can actually break the program's patterns. Every manifestor who learns their correct strategy is a potential revolutionary. Not through fighting, but through pure manifestation of new possibilities. Type 2, Generator, 35%, and its subtype Manifesting Generator, 35%. Combined, 70% of population, the dominant genetic type, the builders, the doers. Strategy, wait to respond, then act. Signature, satisfaction, not self. Theme, frustration, the generator's mission. Generators are the builders of civilization. They are the workforce, the creators, the ones with sustainable energy to bring vision into material form. Without generators, nothing gets built, nothing gets maintained, nothing endures. This is humanity's dominant genetic type for a reason. The program needs massive amounts of sustainable life force energy to maintain the Maya construct. Generators provide that. They are literally the engine of the material plane. But here's the darker truth. Generators are also the most exploited type. Conditioned from childhood to believe they should just do it, to initiate rather than respond, generators burn themselves out in wrong work, wrong relationships, wrong lives, all while generating energy that feeds the program but leaves them frustrated and depleted. A generator operating correctly is terrifying to the control structure. Why? Because a generator who waits to respond only does what genuinely lights them up. They can't be forced, can't be coerced, can't be manipulated into doing what doesn't serve them. Their sacral response, that gut level or is incorruptible. It bypasses mental conditioning entirely. Manifesting generators add another layer. They have the generator engine plus the capacity to manifest once they respond. They're supposed to move fast, do multiple things, skip steps, and then go back and fill in what they missed. This is not carelessness, it's their natural efficiency. How generators evolve. The generator's evolution comes through trusting the sacral response completely. Not the mind, not logic, not what makes sense, just the response. When a generator fully surrenders to responding rather than initiating, something magical happens. Life brings them exactly what they need to respond to. Opportunities show up. The right work finds them. The right people appear. This isn't woo-woo, it's mechanical. The sacral is magnetically pulling in what's correct through the body's own intelligence. Manifesting generators evolve by adding one more step. Visualize first, respond second, inform third, then act at lightning speed. This sequence allows them to use their full power without creating chaos. Conspiracy connection. The entire modern work paradigm is designed to keep generators frustrated. The 9-to-5 job that doesn't honor sacral response. The career paths that require years of commitment before you know if it's right. The social pressure to stick with it even when your sacral is screaming no. Every generator trapped in frustration is generating life force that goes into the wrong places, into systems that don't serve them, into work that depletes them, into relationships that drain them. That energy still feeds the Maya, but it feeds it at the generator's expense. 70% of humanity are generators. Imagine if even half of them learned to respond correctly. The entire economic system would have to restructure. The whole paradigm of hard work and making it happen would collapse. The program cannot allow this at scale. Type 3. Projector, 20% of population. Strategy. Wait for recognition and invitation. Signature. Success. Not self-theme. Bitterness. The projector's mission. Projectors are the guides and managers of energy. They don't have consistent, sustainable energy themselves, but they can see how energy works in others with exceptional clarity. They're designed to direct, to optimize, to guide others into correct use of their power. Without projectors, generators, and manifestors would burn themselves out or spin in circles. Projectors are the intelligence that guides the energy of the other types. In the context of the program, projectors serve a crucial function. They see the patterns. They recognize what's working and what's not. They can perceive the mechanics of systems and suggest optimizations. But here's where it gets interesting. Projectors can see the program itself. They're designed to recognize patterns of energy flow, and the program is a pattern of energy flow. A projector operating correctly could theoretically see through the entire control mechanism. Perhaps that's why projectors are so systematically conditioned to be bitter. In a world that tells everyone to just do it, the projector who tries to keep up gets exhausted, unrecognized, and deeply bitter about the unfairness of it all. Bitter projectors can't see clearly. They're too hurt, too exhausted, too resentful. How projectors evolve. The projector's evolution comes through waiting for genuine recognition and invitation to share their gifts, not forcing themselves on others, not trying to prove their worth, simply being so masterful at what they do that others cannot help but notice. When a projector receives the right invitation, magic happens. Their guidance is received. Their wisdom is valued. Their insights transform systems. They experience success, the feeling of being in the right place at the right time with the right people. This requires tremendous patience and self-worth. The not-self projector thinks, "I have so much to offer, why won't anyone listen?" The correct projector knows, "My gifts are rare and valuable. The right people will recognize them when the time is right." Conspiracy connection. The entire educational system is designed for generator energy, not projector energy. Schools demand constant output, constant doing, constant productivity. Projectors who try to compete burn out early and learn they're not good enough. The corporate world is even worse. Climb the ladder through hard work and long hours. For a projector, this is death. Their gifts aren't in the hours logged, but in the wisdom shared. But wisdom isn't recognized or valued in systems designed for generator energy. Every bitter projector is a tragedy, a potential guide, visionary, or system optimizer who was never recognized and invited correctly. The program benefits from this because unrecognized projectors either burn out trying to be generators, or they become cynical consultants who see the problems but have no real power to fix them. A projector who truly understands their design and waits for the right invitations becomes genuinely dangerous to existing power structures. They can see what's wrong, articulate it clearly, and guide others to correct it, but only if they're invited in. The strategy itself is the safeguard. Most projectors never learn to wait correctly. Type 4. Reflector, 1% of population. Strategy: wait a lunar cycle, 28 days, before making major decisions. Signature: surprise, not self-theme, disappointment. The reflector's mission: reflectors are the barometers of collective health. With no centers defined, they reflect and amplify everything around them. They're designed to sample the health of communities, to feel into whether a system is working or failing, to be the canary in the coal mine of collective consciousness. In ancient times, wise communities would have a reflector, though they wouldn't have called them that, whose role was simply to be present and report on how they felt. If the reflector felt good, the community was healthy. If the reflector felt terrible, something was wrong in the collective. Reflectors are lunar beings in a solar system. The moon has no light of its own. It reflects the sun. Reflectors have no consistent energy of their own. They reflect the energy field around them. Their wisdom comes from this unique sensitivity to fluctuation, to change, to the subtle shifts in collective consciousness that others miss. How reflectors evolve. The reflector's evolution comes through honoring the lunar cycle for major decisions. They need time to experience the full spectrum of influences across 28 days. What feels right on day 3 might feel completely wrong on day 17. Only after a full cycle can they discern what's genuinely correct versus what's just temporary environmental influence. Reflectors must also be ruthlessly selective about their environment because they're completely open. They're vulnerable to toxic energy fields. A reflector in a sick environment becomes sick. A reflector in a healthy environment becomes radiant. When reflectors operate correctly, they experience surprise, the delight of unexpected synchronicities, the joy of being in the right place where magic happens consistently. Disappointment comes when they commit too quickly or stay in the wrong environment too long. Conspiracy connection. Only 1% of reflectors ensures the program doesn't have to worry about them much. They're so rare that they're often dismissed as anomalies, misunderstood even by people who study human design. But imagine if reflectors were honored as they should be, as the ultimate feedback mechanism for collective health. Every community, every organization, every system would have reflectors whose job was simply to be present and report, "Here's how this feels. Here's what I'm reflecting back to you about your collective state." This would be incredibly revealing. A reflector in a corporation could sense the dysfunction instantly. A reflector in a school would feel the stress, the pressure, the wrongness of the system. A reflector in government would be constantly reflecting back the sickness of the power structures. The program doesn't want this kind of feedback. So reflectors are marginalized, told they're too sensitive, conditioned to think something is wrong with them, rather than recognizing they're revealing what's wrong with the environment. A reflector who truly owns their design becomes a living truth detector. They can't be lied to because they feel lies in their body. They reflect back authenticity or inauthenticity automatically. This is why they must be in the right environment and why powerful structures instinctively reject them. The G Center, living from the heart. Now we come to one of the most profound and misunderstood aspects of human design, the G Center, also called the Identity Center, or most tellingly, the magnetic monopole. Located in the chest, represented by the diamond shape in the body graph, the G Center is where the soul resides. This is not metaphor. According to the mechanics, this is literally where consciousness anchors into form. The magnetic monopole has two functions. It holds us together in the illusion of our separateness. It carries us along our line of geometry, our life direction. Let that sink in. There is a magnetic force in your chest that simultaneously creates the experience of being an individual separate being and directs you along your unique life path. This isn't mystical poetry, this is mechanics. Living from the heart, in human design terms, means allowing the magnetic monopole to do its job. In modern society, we're taught to live from the mind, to think our way through life, to plan, to strategize, to figure things out. But the G Center reveals something radical. Your direction and identity don't come from mental analysis. They come from magnetic alignment. The 8 gates of the G Center divide the entire mandala into 8 equal parts. This means the G Center influences every single one of the 64 gates. The heart is literally the organizing principle of the entire design. Everything else arranges around it. 2 fundamental energies emerge from the G Center. The vessel of love, gates 15 and 10, 25 and 46. This is the energy that pulls everything toward you, that creates love, that establishes belonging. This is how you know you're in the right place. You feel held, loved, belonging to something greater than yourself. The Sphinx, gates 7 and 13, 1 and 2. This is the energy of direction, of leadership, of moving along your path. The Sphinx watches the horizon, knows where it's going, and leads others who are ready to follow the same direction. When you live from the G Center, from the heart, you're not living from thought or emotion or will. You're living from magnetic alignment. You're allowing yourself to be pulled toward what's correct for you and moved along the geometry of your unique life path. This is the antidote to mental anxiety, to decision-making paralysis, to the constant feeling of being lost or directionless. Your direction isn't in your head, it's in your heart, mechanically actually, physically, in the magnetic field of your G center. Living from the body, strategy and authority. Here's where human design becomes practical. Strategy and authority are the mechanisms for living from the body rather than the mind. The mind is a beautiful tool for processing information, for creativity, for analysis, but it's the deadly tool for making decisions about your life. The mind is designed to serve, not to drive. Strategy is how your type engages with life correctly. Manifestors inform before acting. Generators respond to what life brings. Projectors wait for recognition and invitation. Reflectors wait a lunar cycle for major decisions. Authority is your personal decision-making mechanism based on which centers you have defined. Some people decide through emotional clarity, some through gut response, some through intuitive knowing, some through speaking and hearing themselves, some through ego/will, some through environmental feedback. The radical claim of human design. When you follow your strategy and authority, you bypass mental conditioning and make decisions from your body's intelligence. This is crucial in the context of the program and potential control mechanisms. Your mind can be programmed, your body cannot if maintained properly. You can be taught what to think, what to believe, what to value, but you cannot be taught what your sacral says yes or no to. You cannot be programmed to override your genuine emotional clarity. You cannot be conditioned to ignore authentic intuitive knowing. Strategy and authority reconnect you with the body's wisdom, with intelligence that operates below the level of mental conditioning. This is why following your strategy and authority is not just about making better choices, it's about reclaiming sovereignty. It's about operating from a place the program cannot infiltrate. When you make decisions from the mind, you're vulnerable to every narrative, every social pressure, every conditioning force. When you make decisions from strategy and authority, you're operating from your unique electromagnetic truth, from the frequency that is genuinely yours rather than imposed. This is living from the body while maintaining connection to soul, G-center, and allowing the heart to guide your direction and identity. The heart knows where you belong. The body knows what's correct. The mind observes and articulates the experience. Conspiracy theories supported by human design mechanics. Let's be direct. Human design mechanics support several conspiracy theories that mainstream consciousness prefers to ignore. 1. Mass homogenization is real and intentional. The mechanics explicitly state, homogenization is devastating because what it creates is an illusion, a conditioning of what we're supposed to think about, how we're supposed to think about things. Our educational systems teach everyone the same way regardless of type. Our corporate structures demand uniform behavior patterns. Our social systems reward conformity and punish difference. This isn't accident. It's systematic suppression of diversity in consciousness. Human design shows that we're designed to be different. 4 types with different strategies, 9 centers that can be defined or open in countless configurations, 64 gates and 36 channels creating infinite variety of expression. Homogenization destroys this. It forces everyone into generator patterns regardless of type. It conditions projectors to try to work like generators. It punishes manifestors for manifesting. It ignores reflectors entirely. Why? because diversity of consciousness is harder to control than homogenized consciousness. A population of individuals operating correctly according to their design cannot be manipulated as easily as a population conditioned to believe everyone should operate the same way. 2. The energy harvesting hypothesis. Consider this mechanical fact. Generators make up 70% of the population and have defined sacral centers, sustainable life force energy. Now consider how society treats generators. Constant pressure to just do it, to work 40+ hours per week, to stay in jobs even when their sacral is saying no, to maintain relationships even when their sacral isn't responding, to live lives that frustrate them. Frustrated generators still generate sacral energy, but that energy isn't serving them. It's draining into work that doesn't fulfill them, into systems that exploit them, into patterns that perpetuate their frustration. Where does that energy go? In the mechanics of human design, we learn about the electromagnetic field, how our energy affects and is affected by others. When generators are conditioned to operate incorrectly, their massive life force feeds the systems around them while depleting themselves. This isn't metaphorical. Energy has mass. It can be measured. It flows from generator to receptor. A generator operating incorrectly is essentially a battery that powers the wrong machinery, and that machinery keeps running whether it serves the generator or not. 3. The open center manipulation. Every open, undefined center takes in and amplifies the energy of that center from others. Open centers are designed to become wise about that particular energy, but most people with open centers simply try to fix them, thinking something is wrong. Consider the open solar plexus, emotional center. People with open solar plexus take in the emotions of everyone around them and amplify them. In a healthy world, they'd become wise about emotions, able to guide others in emotional intelligence. In our world, they think they're broken, try to control their moods, and become emotionally exhausted. Every person with an open center who doesn't understand it becomes a conduit for amplifying collective energy without conscious awareness. This is useful for mass movements, for emotional manipulation, for crowd control. An emotionally charged rally fills the room with emotion. Everyone with an open solar plexus amplifies it. The whole crowd becomes swept up in feelings that aren't even theirs. This is mechanics, not theory. Multiply this across all the centers and you have a population constantly amplifying energies without knowing it, perfect for manipulation by anyone who understands these mechanics. 4. The 2027 mutation and timing. Human design tells us that 2027 marks a fundamental shift in human consciousness, the transition from spleen, survival instinct, to solar plexus, emotional intelligence, as humanity's awareness center. The fact that this knowledge was released in 1987, exactly 40 years, a key numerological span, before the 2027 transition, suggests intentional timing. 40 years is just enough time for the knowledge to spread globally, a generation to grow up with access to it, enough people to learn their designs before the shift, the sorting to occur, those who get it versus those who don't. If the 2027 shift is real, and the mechanics suggest it is, then releasing human design in 1987 ensures that some humans will be prepared for it. Not all, just enough. This supports the harvest theory mentioned earlier. The program needs a percentage of humans to evolve correctly through the transition. Human design becomes the instruction manual for those capable of using it. 5. The magnetic monopole and external control. The magnetic monopole, that invisible force in the G-center, holds us together in the illusion of our separateness and carries us along our geometry. But here's the disturbing question. Is the magnetic monopole entirely internal, or can it be influenced externally? The mechanics tell us it's magnetic. Magnetism can be measured, mapped, influenced. Electromagnetic fields interact with biological systems. This is proven science. What if certain technologies, certain frequency patterns, certain environmental conditions can interfere with the magnetic monopole? This would explain why being in the right place is so crucial, especially for those with open G-centers. This would explain why some environments feel deeply right while others feel toxic. This would explain why place matters so much in human design. It also suggests that control of environment is control of direction. Smart cities, 5G networks, electromagnetic infrastructure, all of these create fields that could theoretically interfere with how the magnetic monopole orients in space. If you can influence where someone's monopole pulls them, you can influence their direction, their identity, their sense of self. This is far more sophisticated than thought control. This is identity control at the magnetic level. 6. The nodal truth. We are objects moving in space. Perhaps the most unsettling revelation in human design. We are objects moving in space. The arrogance of the assumption that you can step off a train like that you can put the brakes on, that you can make a left turn. It's hilarious, actually, to even contemplate such vanity. We are hurtling through space at 500,000 miles per hour as part of the solar system's movement through the galaxy. We don't control this. We can't stop it. We can't change direction. The nodes, north and south, represent our line of geometry through space. This isn't a metaphor for life purpose. This is literal. You're moving along a specific trajectory through space-time, and the nodes show what that trajectory is designed to encounter. Your choices in life aren't really choices in the way you think they are. You're moving along a predetermined path through space, and what appears to be choice is actually resonance or resistance to your trajectory. This supports a deeply deterministic view of reality that most spiritual teachings reject. But human design doesn't care about being comfortable, it cares about mechanics. If this is true, then free will is an illusion, or more precisely, free will exists only in how you relate to your predetermined movement, whether you resist it, not self, or align with it, correct operation. This has massive implications. You can't choose your path, but you can choose whether to fight it or flow with it. Strategy and authority don't give you control. They give you alignment with movement you never controlled in the first place. The 4 types and blood types, a suppressed connection. Now let's address something fascinating that mainstream human design rarely discusses: the apparent correlation between the 4 genetic types and the 4 blood types, O, A, B, AB. Blood type determines immune response patterns, optimal diet, disease susceptibility, personality characteristics in some traditional systems, fertility and reproduction compatibility. The 4 human design types determine energy mechanics, decision-making strategy, relational dynamics, life purpose themes. Is it possible these are two aspects of the same genetic truth? Consider Type O, universal donor, original blood type, Manifestors as initiators, the original human type. Type A emerged with agriculture, pure generators, the builders of civilization. Type B emerged with nomadic cultures, manifesting generators, the quick movers. Type AB, rarest, most recent. Projectors, the guides who see the system. This correlation hasn't been formally studied because it would require admitting that blood type and human design type might be genetic rather than purely astrological, but the fourfold pattern suggests deep structural similarity. Why does this matter? Because if human design type is genetic, not just imprinted at birth but coded in DNA, then it's not changeable through conditioning. It's biological. It can be studied scientifically. It might be detectable through genetic testing. The control structures would have a biological marker for type. This could explain why the knowledge was released but remains fringe. If it becomes mainstream and scientifically validated, the game changes entirely. Type becomes as measurable as blood type. You can't gaslight someone about their genetics. The current situation, where human design exists but remains woo-woo in mainstream consciousness, might be exactly what the program needs, available to those who seek it, but not validated enough to become universal. The source question: Archons or liberation? We return to the fundamental question: is the source of human design, the voice from the center of the earth, archonic or liberating? The archonic argument. The knowledge comes from within the material plane, Earth's core, not from transcendent spiritual realms. It reveals the mechanics of the prison without providing escape, other than follow your strategy. It sorts humans into those who get it, a potential 4% of population, and those who don't, harvest. It accepts determinism. You're an object moving in space. It maintains the illusion of separateness, the monopole's function. The liberation argument: the knowledge reveals the exact mechanics of conditioning. Strategy and authority bypass mental programming. Operating correctly creates sovereignty the program cannot penetrate. Understanding the mechanics allows conscious navigation of the Maya. It honors diversity against homogenization. Perhaps the truth is both. The knowledge comes from the intelligence of the material plane itself, what Gnostics call the demiurge, what we might call planetary consciousness, what the mechanics call the program. This intelligence is not good or evil, it's mechanical, serving its function of maintaining and evolving the Maya. As the program approaches a critical transition, 2027 and beyond, it releases the instruction manual, not out of benevolence, but out of necessity. The old seven-centered humanity is over. The nine-centered humanity is still in its infancy. A transition this profound requires some humans to navigate it consciously, or the whole experiment might collapse. Human design, then, is both trap and key. Trap. You think you're escaping, but you're actually fulfilling your role in the program with more sophistication. You become a conscious cog in the machine rather than an unconscious one. Key. You gain sovereignty within the construct. You can't escape the Maya. You're in a body moving through space, but you can navigate it consciously, make choices that serve your unique frequency, live with less suffering and more fulfillment. The ultimate conspiracy. Perhaps there is no escape, only conscious participation, and conscious participation, while still within the program, creates experiences so radically different from unconscious participation that it feels like freedom. Living the design beyond theory. All of this theory, conspiracy or not, means nothing without application. The experiment is simple. Know your type, learn your strategy, start following it, know your authority. Learn where your decision-making wisdom lives. Start using it. Know your profile, understand your life theme and how you learn. Study your centers, see where you're defined, consistent, and where you're open, wise. Live it for 7 years, a full cellular cycle of deconditioning. The promise isn't enlightenment. It isn't escape from the material plane. It isn't even happiness in the conventional sense. The promise is you will live your life rather than someone else's conditioning of what your life should be. And in a world of total homogenization, that is revolutionary. Whether human design comes from archons or liberation, whether it serves the program or undermines it, whether 2027 is real or metaphor, none of that matters as much as whether you operate correctly according to your design. Because regardless of source, regardless of ultimate purpose, regardless of cosmic conspiracy, when you live from strategy and authority, from your body's intelligence, from your heart's magnetic pull, life works better. Things flow more easily, right people appear, wrong people fall away, opportunities align with your gifts, suffering decreases not because pain disappears, but because you're not adding unnecessary suffering through operating against your nature. Is this freedom? Not in the absolute sense. You're still in a body, still in the Maya, still moving along your predetermined geometry through space. But it's the only freedom available, the freedom to be yourself within the construct. And perhaps that's enough. Perhaps that's everything. Conclusion, the transmission continues. Ra Uru Hu received the transmission in 1987. He spent his life sharing it, reluctantly at first, then with increasing urgency as he recognized its importance. He died in 2011. The knowledge remains. Millions of people have had their human design charts calculated. Thousands practice it seriously. A small percentage truly live it. The sorting continues. Some hear about human design and feel nothing. Some are curious but don't follow through. Some study intensely but never apply it. Some experiment for a while and return to conditioning. And some, a small number, recognize it as true in their bodies, begin the experiment, persist through years of deconditioning, and emerge as something different. Humans operating according to their design rather than their conditioning. These are the ones the transmission was for. If you've read this far, you're being called to decide, is this information for you? Does it resonate in your body? Not in your mind. Your mind will always have doubts, questions, resistance. In your body, in your sacral, in your gut, in your heart. What's the response? That response is your answer. The voice from the center of the earth spoke once. The transmission is complete. The knowledge is available. Now it's up to each individual to decide, will I experiment with this? Will I test whether it's true? Will I give it 7 years of my life to see what happens when I operate correctly? There's no evangelism here, no pressure. Human design doesn't need believers, it needs experimenters. The conspiracy, if there is one, isn't about controlling people. It's about revealing the mechanics so clearly that those ready to see cannot unsee. And once you see the mechanics, once you understand how conditioning works, how the homogenization functions, how your design operates, you can't pretend you don't know. You can only decide, will I live this or won't I? That choice, that is where your agency lies. Not in changing your type, not in escaping your geometry, not in transcending the program. In choosing each moment to operate according to your design or according to your conditioning. Moment by moment, decision by decision, response by response. That's the work, that's the transmission, that's the gift and the burden of this knowledge. The voice spoke from the center of the earth. Now it speaks through every person who lives their design correctly. Which voice will you listen to? The conditioning or the design? Your answer determines not your fate. That's already written in your geometry. Your answer determines your experience of that fate, resistance or alignment, suffering or satisfaction, frustration or fulfillment. The knowledge has been delivered. The experiment awaits. The choice is yours.